Today we sit down with CFO Tyler Davis to discuss building an asset management firm and the importance of surrounding yourself with a solid team. I learned a lot in this episode, and I hope you enjoy it.
In Our Expert Opinion podcast is brought to you by SVN Saunders Ralston Dantzler Real Estate, a full-service land and commercial brokerage with almost $4 billion in transactions since 1996.
All right, I've got first I should say this is In Our Expert Opinion podcast. I keep forgetting to say that on every single episode. I have in the room Michael Huntley, who maybe laughs once an episode, and then my abusive emotional support animal, Chad Mills. We still don't know what Michael does here. This is like a running joke on this podcast.
He laughs a couple times an episode. You already told the viewer here. That's all he does. He just laughs a couple times.
That's what Michael is good for.
There's one.
There's a laugh. There's a laugh. All right, you're cut off.
Yeah, no more Michael. And then we've got the one and only Tyler Davis, affectionately known as TD.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
The crowd is really excited to have you as
That's
well.
right. Scored a TD right there.
You did. You did. TD, I'm trying to think of what else that could stand for. Touchdown, I guess. That's about it.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. You are the CFO for SRD, Saunders Ralston Dantzler.
That's correct, yeah. Been in this role for a little over a year now, and it's been a whirlwind in a good way. I mean, it's been a fun year to be here. We've had a lot of exciting things happen. Nothing more exciting than being on this podcast today, of course, but no, it's really been a real learning opportunity. I think I've helped the company in a number of different ways, but yeah, it's fun to be part of a company that's growing at the rate we are, both from a transaction perspective, but also a geographic perspective. That creates a lot of opportunity for growth within the company, and I think it's really been a joy to be a part of.
You're at the wheel here, man. So if it goes south, I think the fingers are pointing at you.
I'm playing the violin on the Titanic if that happens, right? Yeah.
As everybody's screaming and falling off. Mm-hmm.
I'll be the baker on the Titanic.
Oh my God.
Just saw a short on him the other day. Figured out he was one of the only guys to survive. He was the one throwing all the chairs off for people to hang on to.
Do chairs float?
They were float better than no chairs.
Than no chairs
Okay.
at all. But apparently throughout the whole night while it was going down, he was just chugging whiskey the whole time. And that was one of the things that made him survive.
He was
Viscosity
warm.
in the blood.
He was warm.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any whiskey in your cup there?
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
I can get some. But
Okay, yeah. Now, when did you start with SRD?
So joined the company in the summer of 2019, moved here to Lakeland from Birmingham, Alabama, and was here for, about 6 or 7 months, starting to get settled in, starting to get to know people in the community and kind of grow within the company, and then everything shuts down for about 6 months. So it was really interesting timing in terms of starting something new and moving into a new role, but it's really flown by. I mean, since that point when everything kind of resumed in summer, fall 2020, it's really only been up from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're always busy. I am not always busy, but I see you always busy. But a little bit before you came to SRD, you were with
PricewaterhouseCoopers in Birmingham, and kind of before that, just my story. I grew up outside Atlanta in a small town called Carrollton, Georgia, affectionately known as the City of Dreams, as we all call it, jokingly. And then went to Samford for college in Birmingham, and then did my master's in tax at Tuscaloosa, University of Alabama. Then moved back to Birmingham and started working for PwC after I got my CPA license, and worked there for about 5 or 6 years in tax.
Okay.
Did a lot more audit type tax work than your typical tax return preparer kind of role. So did a lot of traveling, and it was really a great experience. I learned a lot about kind of organization structure and efficiency and kind of how to implement technology tools and doing financial work, and really worked on some complicated but fun assignments. And so all that was fine and dandy until sometimes you get married and tax season hours aren't quite as doable as they used to be because you want to spend time with your wife, and life changes and the travel isn't quite as fun when you'd rather be home with your wife. So
yeah, I mean, it's good that you're saying that, because your wife's dad is our boss. So you know what I mean? If he was to hear this, I think he'd be really happy.
Exactly. Yeah.
About hearing that. And so you, I mean.
Yeah. So we kind of decided that we wanted to move to
How
Florida.
did Caroline get in Birmingham?
She went to Sanford as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So we didn't know each other at all in school. We met when I was working after she graduated. She would have been a freshman when I was a senior.
Look at this
But
guy.
I know.
Look at this guy.
Didn't know each other at all in school, and met through some mutual friends right after she'd graduated. So met and dated for a year, got engaged, and then got married, and lived in Birmingham for a year after we were married, and kind of knew we were ready for a change.
I was going to ask, did you guys know that you didn't want to live there?
Well, it wasn't so much living in Birmingham. We loved living in Birmingham, still love Birmingham. Actually going up there this weekend to see some friends that I haven't seen in a while. So it wasn't necessarily Birmingham as much as it was just she wanted to be closer to her family, and just the work-life balance of where I wasn't really working. So
no, when you're working for those large firms, like your life is not yours.
And also to work your way up, you have to move around. And you kind of have to move where they want you to move. And I could have done that. I had opportunities, but we were kind of ready to lay down some roots and have that sense of community that I had growing up and that she had growing up. And so kind of in those discussions, started talking to Dean Saunders at our company, my father-in-law, and realized the company kind of had a need for somebody with my background, and a couple of things that we wanted to do that we didn't necessarily have somebody to spearhead, which we'll get into later in this podcast, were kind of some of the attractive things about joining the company. And so kind of knew if I joined the company and it didn't work, that I could always go back to public accounting. I always kind of had that in my,
you have that. That's like the ace up the
safety valve,
sleeve,
I guess. And so, it's taken a little while to get some of these ventures off the ground. COVID's partially at fault for that. But now things are really moving on a number of fronts. And so it's been really fun to work in a family environment, right? If you have the opportunity to do it, obviously do it. I mean, it's a huge blessing. I'm not going to go around it in that way at all. If you can work for a family-owned business and kind of be a part of a family legacy, like that's really fun. And if you have the choice of trying to go be successful somewhere else or go be successful as part of a family business, why would you choose something else, right? And part of it is just the neat part about when I'm with family, I can also talk business, and that line is hard to draw in the sand, right? Of where does business intersect with family, and when is business off limits when you want to talk business when you're around family, right? Sometimes my wife will shoot me the eye if I'm around Dean about, all right, stop
like
talking
cut
about
it
work.
out.
But it's also, there are a lot of times where Dean and I are in the car together for 4 hours because we're on a family trip, and I can pick his brain about a million different things related to real estate. So for me, it's really helped me expedite my real estate knowledge, because I had a lot of accounting knowledge and tax knowledge and financial knowledge, but didn't have the real estate part as much. So that's been one of the big blessings of it, and working with a family and business is just, I can call Dean up pretty quickly and get an answer on something. And
that was going to be my icebreaker question was, do you hate working for your father-in-law? I guess the answer is no.
I plead the fifth. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's been really good. I was concerned about that initially and kind of fought even, internally, and also kind of with Caroline about whether I wanted to join a family business, just because of some of the...
It's like the politics of it,
The politics, kind of the stereotype of it. Like, he's just working for his father-in-law.
Well, like, thank goodness you're as bright as you are,
He doesn't work hard. He's just kind of going the easy route. And I've kind of tried to make a point of doing the opposite of those stories, right? Like, I feel like I work really hard.
I would second that.
I try to treat this...
Got some head nods back here in the back.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate it.
All the odds.
Were they head nods, yes or no? They were nods.
Well, if he's going to plead the fifth on important questions.
No, it's...
Talking to the guy who cuts my check over here.
We love him. We love
Yeah,
TD.
thanks, guys.
Big nods.
I see how this works. But no, it's actually been a lot better than I anticipated.
I
That's
think
not to say I
so.
had low expectations for it, because I didn't. But
No, but it's like a new environment, and it's kind of scary too, because like I didn't have the opportunity to go into like my family's business. But like you said, there's expectations, or there's like notions that people will have of like a family member coming in to work in a business.
Right.
But I think that Bridget and I were actually talking about this the other day when I told her you were on the pod. And she said that the thing that, like impressed her was that I think that you had, because you were in property management, so you know how to do the property management, and I think you still help out with that sometimes.
Some,
if like,
yeah,
Lauren is
questions,
sick or something. Yeah.
complications.
And then you're also like an agent. So I did some deals up front. So I think you kind of bounced around and learned a little bit of everything before you stepped into CFO role.
Right.
And I think that really helped you. I do.
And I, when I started at the company, I thought this might be the case, that down the road that I really kind of focus more on the company books, company transactions than on a certain division. But starting out somewhere and learning the ropes, even when you have a lot of experience and financial background, like when you're moving into a new industry, it's good to start at a place where you can learn the business. And so for me, it was working in property management, and we needed some help in that when I first started of kind of evolving that structure and the way we did that. And so for me, it was a great way to just learn about leases and learn about tenants. And because, whether it's commercial or land, and if you're a land investor, oftentimes you're leasing that land back to tenants. And so it's a different type of tenant, but like that's core to commercial real estate, right? Like if you don't understand that, you're probably not going to understand a lot of other things within the commercial industry.
Leasing encompasses everything.
It does.
In commercial real estate, truly. Like, and there are so many different terms. There are so many different like words that if you can get those down, you can easily, I think, go into the other areas.
And even with my background, terminology is so much different in real estate than it was in accounting and tax, and in terms of publicly traded documents and stuff like that. Like coming up with an NOI, that means something different in accounting than it does in real estate. And so kind of working at property management initially kind of opened my eyes to those different terms, the different reports, things that are important.
Yeah. But I know from like the beginning, I remember when you started, you were talking about starting a fund. And of course I'm like, that's so cool. And then I had to Google what a fund was because I literally didn't know. So why don't you explain what a fund is?
Yeah, sure.
As if I'm 5 years old.
So
Or as if I
one
don't
of the
know.
reasons that I joined the company was to help us start kind of an investment arm of the company, whether that was with company dollars or whether we're out raising money, which is what we've been doing. But we had all the pieces in place to do it. If you're going to go out and buy commercial properties, it's important that you have a great relationship with a property management company.
Yeah.
Check, we had that, right? It's important that you have, oftentimes with property management comes leasing agents, that you have good leasing agents in place. And we had that. And it's also important that you have a lot of real estate knowledge and years of experience. And personally, I didn't have that, right? But Dean Saunders has it, and Gary Ralston definitely has it in terms of his background of running a publicly traded REIT and taking it from 10 million in assets to $1.5 billion over 10 years. So
you've got two people who will know anybody, and you can use those connections.
Right. And so, this is a little bit of another lap around the track for Gary in terms of his background and starting something new here in Lakeland. And so,
but I'm kind of counting on Gary having a second go around because I once heard that he handed out Rolexes.
Really?
At his previous company.
Okay, well, let's set that as a goal here.
Yes, correct. I need to get in on that though.
Yeah,
so
we
remember
get to $1.5
me.
billion in assets. Linda, you're getting a Rolex.
Remember me. Thank you. Thank you.
So, my background and my skill set fits in doing that, right? Like I'm used to doing deal structure and partnership investments, partnership interests. And so it's really been a good fit. We started about a year ago. We capitalized a general partnership and we've gone out and now acquired 2 properties, one on Highway 27 near I-4 exit 55, kind of in the Davenport area near Advent Health, and the other one here in Lakeland. That's our most recent acquisition. And so the general partner has invested kind of and serves as the general partner, and then we're raising limited partner dollars at each property. And so right now it's been kind of a collection of local investors, friends and family, friends of the company, things like that. But that's kind of how you have to start this, and then it grows from there. And there's different ways to scale it, but we definitely have growth on the mindset on that front. We did 2 properties. We capitalized the general partner last year, so we want to do 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 even this year.
Wow.
Is kind of the goal, and
Okay.
kind of to do that each of the next few years and do a few development projects here and there
That was
to
one
supplement
of
that.
my
Right now
questions.
we're looking at properties that are already constructed, just because construction costs are through the roof and land costs are super high right now.
Yeah.
Which we're the benefactors on
Yeah.
the brokerage side, right? But in the future, when those costs level out and as we see opportunities, I think we're definitely open to doing some not major development projects, but kind of small scale development.
Yeah, I literally have that as a question because, I don't know if do you guys run into any problems finding
Right now,
sites?
it's really hard to find properties.
I feel like there is so much competition, and
Yep.
even the buyers that I work with, or the landlords that I work with, who are trying to acquire new centers, like as soon as they find one, it's gone.
It's gone, yeah.
So I think it's really like a dog eat dog.
There's
out
so much
world.
cash that
Out
people are
world.
sitting on,
Yeah.
which makes it a lot easier to raise money, but it also makes it that much more difficult to find properties to buy because, you have cap rates getting squeezed.
Yeah.
You have, you can't get anything in interest if you were to alternatively invest that in a bond or something.
Yeah.
And so people are looking at commercial real estate as a way to hedge against inflation because a lot of these leases are, have CPI related adjustments or 3 or 4% rent increases each year. And so investors looking at commercial real estate as an alternative to investing in the stock market or kind of in the bond market, that it makes a lot of sense. But because there's so much capital and there's so much equity out there, that it's really driven up the price of properties, and people don't want to sell them right now. So
No.
that's part of the challenge is
Yeah.
sourcing deals and finding deals. Thankfully, we have an office full of agents, which helps, and a couple people on staff that are helping us kind of be dedicated to trying to source more properties. But it's still a challenge.
Yeah. I mean, how are you even identifying those properties? Are you looking for, things that need improvement? Are you looking for things that are just kind of like turnkey?
So kind of a hybrid of the two. We're trying to buy quality properties. We don't want to go buy just kind of a junky center
Yeah.
that might cash flow, but long term you're going to have to replace it or rebuild it or something like that. So we're trying to buy quality properties in quality areas, and the first 2 properties definitely check those boxes, but there's been a little bit of a value add component to each one. The first one was 82% occupied, so there was 3,500 square feet that we could lease out, and then which we have.
And it's
then
in just a
killer
growing area.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like
And
that.
then the property here in Lakeland has about a 5,000 square foot vacant lot that we can develop. And so we're going to develop that out and lease it out. And so
Okay.
that's one way to kind of increase the overall NOI on the property. So we're trying to find stuff that does have a little bit of a value add component, but we're not trying to be overly aggressive on that either. I mean, we want to buy quality properties, not be over leveraged, and just honestly kind of look at things with a little bit of a longer term horizon than some other groups would.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the most important because I don't want to put down anybody, but I have known several landlords who are so hesitant, even like, I know that replacing a roof is expensive. I am aware of that. But I just think these properties that are like, the landlords aren't taking care of them. It's like, come on, you have your tenants that are worried about it, and, it affects their business. Also, it would affect the resale value. So I think...
Yeah, we're trying to be proactive
Yeah.
on that front, and proper planning oftentimes can help prevent some of those discussions. If you think about things especially if you have a long-term horizon on something, right? If you're going to own something for 10 years, then paying for a roof, it kind of makes sense, right?
Exactly. And then, okay, you were talking about scaling earlier. What is this?
Just how we grow the business,
Yeah.
right? I mean, whether that's the brokerage or our investment platform, there's we kind of built a base level for both, right? I mean, the brokerage has been in business 25 years. We're probably the dominant player in Florida with what we do. We're starting to grow in Georgia now. We're kind of looking at other states as a potential growth avenue. And so, how do we replicate what we've done in Florida, right? It doesn't happen overnight. There's a number of critical people and components to it. And
I had
tools.
Dean on here, and he was
Right.
saying that, the way that he hires on agents or selects agents is not, basically that he just wants like the creme de la creme,
Yeah.
he just doesn't want somebody who's like come up off, just gotten their real estate license, or maybe he does, but that has good connections. But it's like, you really want quality people who kind of know what they're doing, have great connections, or like stand-up people, and that you can obviously depend on to help you grow your business.
Right. And Dean's been very intentional about kind of growing organically with that. We haven't done any acquisitions. We haven't gone out and bought anybody
Yeah.
or merged with anybody. I mean, all this has been pretty organic. And, think about when we talk about Georgia as our new kind of frontier a little bit, Bryant Peace is a perfect example. He's, kind of holding down the Georgia fort for us early on. And, he grew up in Lakeland, friends of the family with Dean, and he's a great guy, and he's the kind of person that you want to build around. And because of that, now he's got one of his good buddies who just joined us, Austin Fisher, who's going to crush it and do really well. And so if you bring on right people, successful people often surround themselves with successful people, right? High achievers don't like people who aren't high achievers,
Who aren't
and
carrying their weight.
and people who aren't high achievers don't like high achievers.
Yeah.
So if you surround yourself with the right people, those people are going to surround themselves with the right people
Yeah.
too, for the most part. And
Yeah.
so it's really been a good growth mechanism for us, is to hire the right people, both internally in staff positions and also in terms of bringing on agents. If you bring on the right people, you're going to be successful.
Yeah, I think so. I think that can also be said of your investment fund.
Right.
It's like, if you guys can, build up what other people would consider to be successful or having like a good return, well, then obviously they're going to tell they're going to tell their clients or other people that they might
Right.
know, their
If
friends.
you do things the right way, word starts to spread. And if you're either bringing on quality people to a brokerage or buying quality properties like that, there's some parallel there.
Yeah.
And honestly, from one property to the other, it's been that way. We've had a number
Yeah.
of people who've word of mouth from their friends or family, who, this guy's brother might have invested with us, and of course he tells his brother about it, and so we get to know him, and that's really the way these things grow. Just like on the brokerage side, there's a lot of parallels there.
Yeah. And are you guys, for your investment fund, you said are you only doing Florida?
Correct. Right now,
Okay.
yeah. So the company's name is Imperial Florida Partners.
Okay.
So it's a different entity than the brokerage,
Yeah.
which is the way it should be.
Yes.
A lot of parallels there, obviously. But yes, focus on Florida right now. And part of that is because we think we're in the right place at the right time. I mean, Florida's growing at a ridiculous rate. We're right here in the heart of it on the I-4 corridor. So we're kind of looking Tampa, Orlando, and then Highway 27, anywhere from kind of Sebring to Claremont, and even a little further north than that. So really, that's kind of the axis, the X and Y axis, if you will.
The four corners.
That's right.
I grew up in Florida. I've lived here my whole life. I never thought that Claremont would be what it is now. And then I talk to people who have moved to Claremont. And of course, in my mind, I'm like, no, those are the dark lands. You don't go over there, or whatever they called them in The Lion King. But now it's like, that's the place to be. And I drove through there the other day. I've never seen so many houses. It's just house after house after house. So I think...
With all this growth, it's really interesting because preconceived notions about an area, oftentimes those aren't true. They might have been true 50 years ago or 30 years ago, but if you're not up to date on what's happening around you and kind of look at things with a fresh set of lens, you might miss an opportunity.
Especially in Florida. I mean, I don't know if we can say that about, other states.
No, but where we are?
Correct.
Yeah.
Specifically Florida, because, I mean, you look at South Florida, there's no more land there. That's done. But like along the I-4 corridor, I mean, Tampa's almost done. I don't know if you've been over there recently, but there's hardly anything left. But then, you look at places like Brooksville, and people are going there.
Right. It's
'cause
like
there's nowhere
Tampa,
else to
Wesley
go.
Chapel,
Yes.
and now it's spilling over to like Zephyr Hills, Dade
Yes.
City, and then up to Brooksville. And those are places that in the past probably developers wouldn't have been looking,
Yeah.
and even local people wouldn't think to, hey,
Yeah.
we need to pay attention to Zephyr Hills. But it's true. I mean, there's a lot happening in those areas that have
Yeah.
often been overlooked in the past.
And so do you guys use, I know, you mentioned Gary Ralston, and he is, managing partner, whatever data guy. Do you guys use data to, determine where you guys want to buy?
Right, we do.
I shouldn't keep saying guys. Where you all?
Have you had Gary on the podcast yet?
I have
okay,
not.
So once you do, he's 100% going to say that real estate is space for people, and it is. And so don't want to sound like a broken record saying that, but if you know where the people are, those are often good places to buy commercial real estate. And so when we look at a property, one of the first things we pull are the Esri, analytics for the site. And so we'll look at drive times, not just the mile radiuses, but it's even more important than that is drive times, right?
Yeah.
I don't think about something in terms of from my house, how many miles away it is, right? No, I think how long is it going to take me to get there?
I don't know how many miles away anything is, but I know that it takes me an hour and 50 minutes to get to Orlando.
Right.
It could be 20 miles for all that I know, but the drive time,
So
I
the
know what
drive
it
time
is.
is critical when we look at a site, right? And so we look for properties that are growing faster than the state of Florida. And on both of these properties that we've acquired, they've both been growing much faster than the state of Florida and even much faster than their both of them have been in Polk County. And
Were
Polk
those
County's growing
properties for
extremely
sale?
fast. One was listed for sale. The other one was kind of off market, but in the process of probably going on market. So kind of heard through some relationships that it was going to come available, which is how we were made aware of it. So
Yeah. I think that's I know I'm kind of flipping back and forth between brokerage and fund.
I do this on a daily basis, multiple hats.
But it's like, in that way, a broker, typically, if you're looking for a listing and you have to like call these owners and really not negotiate with them to sell, but you kind of have to like give them the rundown about why it's important for them to sell right now, why they should use you, why they should list the property at all. And I feel like that's similar, in your fund. If a property isn't listed, it's like, well, we can offer you X, Y, and
We can
Z.
close quick.
Yes.
It's a similar process.
Yeah.
Yep. And, you kind of have to do that, not sales pitch to potential investors, but you have to, convince them that there's a lot of different opportunities for people to invest.
Yeah.
I mean, they can invest in, if people want to invest in commercial real estate, it's never been easier. I mean,
Yeah.
you can go buy something yourself, you can go the crowdfunding route, and you can invest in, apartment development in Austin, Texas if you want. But
Yeah.
for us, I think it's very relational. We want people to trust us. We want to get to know them on a personal level. And plus we're buying stuff locally that they know, they visit, that they support those businesses, and they're familiar with them. And so I do think there's kind of a comfort level with that.
Yeah. Well, and I think especially with like the reputation that Dean and Gary have, I don't think that this company would have survived for 25 years if they were out there just not being right to people or being
Right.
good to people or, paying super low prices or, whatever. I think you've got a lot of weight behind you as far as credibility.
Right.
And
I think that's important, right? To any business is that you do things the right way, you treat people the right way. Even if sometimes it comes at the expense of
Yes.
of growth or a sale or whatever, I think in the long term, if you do things the right way, it'll definitely pay off.
it'll pay off. It'll come back to you, and you don't want to be this like, people, whenever they see you coming, they're like, hide your keys.
Right.
Like, we don't want them coming near our property. No, you want people, and eventually I think that people will start coming to you and saying, I have this property. I don't want it anymore. I need to dispose of it. And then you'll be able to utilize, and capitalize on that.
People say it gets easier.
Yeah.
The most difficult property to do is the first one, right? And the second one has been so much easier.
You know what? I actually
And so from there, I think each one is incrementally easier than the other one.
I really hope that's true. Did you guys run into any, problems with the first property?
Let's see.
How long did it take you guys to close?
It took us a little bit longer on that
Okay.
one. We didn't have some of our financing as teed up as we do now.
Okay.
So we can close quicker now than we could then.
Yeah.
There was a roof issue. We've put a new roof on there. So, anytime you buy property, whether it's a residential house or a commercial property, you want to figure out what's
Your
wrong
due
with
diligence.
it. Right? So obviously there's some back and forth on that. And there was on that one.
Yeah.
But overall, there's not been too many major hiccups yet.
Yeah.
Hopefully there won't be moving forward.
I have a question here. It's like,
sure.
what are some of your early easy wins? And I feel like both of these properties are pretty early easy wins.
Right. And you really feel like you have some, and this part is fun, right? It's like what we're doing is fun. It's not all jobs are that way. And
no, I prepared taxes for tax returns. It was not fun.
Yeah.
That was what some of the worst. Yeah.
This is fun, though. The fun stuff, going and buying stuff and evaluating properties, figuring out where you want to be. Well, we like this property. We don't like this one. And then pitching it to people to invest in it. Like, that is really fun. And so you feel kind of it's a really unique feeling once you get one of these things done where you bought the property and it's fully funded and things are working out. Like, it's a really exciting time and exciting feeling, and it does give you a sense of momentum, and it's very encouraging that, okay, we're maybe onto something here. We got a little momentum behind us.
So, I mean, I feel like that's a good, when you think of funds, I think of obviously billions of dollars, and I think of Wall Street, and I think of people in New York and everything. And so it's super intimidating. And I feel like, for you guys starting out, first of all, Gary and Dean are going to be intimidating no matter what, but it's a little bit easier, I think, for investors or people that want to start investing to approach you guys, which I think would give you an advantage over like a larger, coming in.
And every one of those big companies started somewhere. A family friend of ours lives in Atlanta and runs one of the largest kind of development companies in the southeast out of Atlanta.
Okay, is he single?
It's like 65. But,
that's okay.
No, it's not. But, developed a lot of the Atlanta skyline. And I was talking to him recently, and he was saying, Tyler, the first 2 deals we did, he was an attorney at the time, and just kind of happened to fall into real estate a little bit. He was working in real estate law and bought 2 warehouses, and he was like, I passed the hat to all these people that I knew when I was a kid. They were 80 years old in Carrollton where I grew up, and that kind of kick-started that real estate career where all of a sudden his capital sources now aren't John Smith, who owns a lawn care business in Carrollton, Georgia. It's pension funds and real equity sources. And so all those big businesses started somewhere, and the only reason they got from where they were to where they are now is because they had that personal connection and people trusted them with their money, and it kind of grew from there. And I do think for a lot of people, they're nervous about the stock market, and they're sitting on a lot of excess cash, and they don't know what to do with it, and they don't want to buy commercial property themselves because then they have to manage it. They have to pick out the right property. So really, we're just trying to provide a diversification tool for people to buy commercial real estate and not have to manage it themselves.
I think you bring up a lot of good points, because I don't think that people, even taxes, property taxes, well, do you want to pay that yourself, or do you want that to be spread out, across 10, 20 people, or however many it's going to be? But it's very intimidating, I think, for people who have never bought commercial, if they own their home and that's it,
And for people, oftentimes it's intimidating enough buying a house, right?
Correct.
I remember when before I was in real estate, I bought my first house. I was so nervous. I was like, what,
It's emotional. What if
tough.
the AC goes out?
Yeah.
Like, what if there's a hole in the roof one day?
Right.
Scared me. Oh my God. I thought it was like a fire alarm, and I was like, it's happening, Tyler, it's happening.
The button's actually called scary. So
Is it really? It scared me.
It was pretty loud.
I was about to be like, this is it. The ship is going down. Like, I'm freaking out. Geez Louise. No, I think that, any way for people to, first of all, Gary will tell you this, and I think Dean will tell you this too. Real estate is not being made anymore. There's only a certain amount of land. We can't create anymore. So I will never say that something is a sure thing. Obviously, markets, crash and everything happens. But it just seems that the people that I know that have been real estate owners are the ones that aren't working anymore because they're just chilling at home.
Right. And I think the reason that people are successful in this business is because they don't let the highs be too high and they don't let the lows be too low for them.
Yeah.
Whether that's on the brokerage side, the investment side, the ownership side. Not being over leveraged, right? Not overspending in good years when you've crushed it in brokerage, because it's not always going to be that way, right? So And also with what we're doing on the, brokerage side, we know these are great years that we're in, right? It's not always going to be this way.
Yeah.
But even thinking about, okay, how are we going to pivot when the market changes? I've had some conversations with Dean about that. And he's got some ideas for things we can kind of get in the pipeline of when things shift gears. This is when there's not as much development going on.
Yeah.
What can we be selling?
Yeah.
And so we have a few ideas on that front. And then, when the market changes from a selling perspective for us on the investment side of things, oftentimes those are the best buying opportunities.
Yeah.
And so trying to make sure we're structuring things in a way where we have enough financial flexibility, where we're not tied down with so much debt on some of these properties that we can go out and acquire more properties when the market changes and there are more opportunities.
Now, if somebody was interested in becoming, a part of the fund, do you guys have an interview process? Do you guys, vet people?
There is a vetting process, and some of that gets to SEC rules for offerings and accreditation and things like that. So there's some things we can't do and can't do, just in terms of, or we can do and can't do, I should have said, but in terms of following those rules.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a process, and it's definitely something we're always looking for more people, but we have to be careful about what we say and do.
Well, absolutely. And I think it just goes back to, you want people who are credible, because you guys in general want to be credible, and you don't want sketchy things going on.
We want to invest with people who have shared beliefs about investment and know that we're kind of in some of these for the long run, and are not looking to hit home runs on some of these properties.
This isn't a lottery ticket.
We're trying to get on base, hit doubles in the gap. Occasionally we'll hit a triple. We might bump for a single on one, but we're not trying to go up there and be Mark McGuire and hit 73, or Barry Bonds and hit 73 home runs in a year.
The only reason that I know who McGuire is because I swear his name is in a song from the 90s. So I believe everything you just said, even though I don't always understand it.
Sure that wasn't Jerry Maguire?
Oh, was
Toby.
that Toby Maguire? Yeah. How many Maguires can we name right now?
Lizzie?
Oh my gosh, TD. Oh my goodness. So if people, they can get in touch with you through our website, obviously. And I think you'll be able to better steer them, if they're the right fit or not.
Right. And we're limited on what we can put out there. So we, at this point, we're not super aggressive in terms of growth on that front. And we feel like we have a good pool of people already. So, but yeah, we're trying to grow it. And so hopefully there's some opportunities in the future.
I think so. Are we at 40 minutes, Chad?
You got some rapid fire questions here?
Yeah, we've got some time.
Okay, I do have a couple of questions for you. And I asked Dean this, and I've asked Bridget this. And Bridget's was on a little trial podcast, so I don't know that it'll ever be aired. Who's your favorite staff member?
Who's my favorite staff member?
Michael.
Who we don't know what he does other than laugh is raising his hand.
Michael is...
Let's see. How political can I be here?
Yeah.
Let's see. I think I might say...
There's only one correct answer here.
I think I might say Dan.
Oh, my God.
Everybody else has said themselves. So.
That's
really
so funny. Everybody else said themselves. But you know what? Honest to God, it's not that I ever forget about Dan, but I forgot about Dan. But that is a really good answer. Dan is an excellent staff member.
Dan is
go-getter.
He's one of the hardest working people I know.
He is.
Team player.
He
wears so many different hats.
Yeah.
Doesn't get the admiration and love that he deserves. So
That is so sweet, TD. That is really... I'm going to make sure that he listens to
Dan
this. A Dan for
the end of
president.
time.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I really like that a lot. Who's your favorite agent?
Ooh, favorite agent. I'm going to have to say Dean.
Oh,
because Dean is...
he's your father-in-law number one.
He's a machine also. But in terms of other agents, let's see. David Hitchcock sold me his house last year, so I have to shout out Hitchcock.
Okay, yeah.
Also a great guy and a great agent. I really like Zeb.
I was
Yes.
Not expecting that at all. I cannot believe that you even know Zeb's name. I am like stunned right now. That is
So,
Y'all
hilarious.
did Portland together, right?
We did, which
Oh
was
my
an
God.
awesome
The
experience.
boys took on
I
Portland.
forgot that
So-
you guys did
So
that.
Zeb, Ethan, and I went out to SVN's kind of jumpstart kickoff week.
Yes.
A couple years ago, right before COVID, we went to Portland, Oregon, which
Yeah.
is like the weirdest country.
yeah.
Weirdest
Weirdest
city.
country.
It's like some country. It really is.
That is so funny.
I
Zeb
mean,
did
it
have a
is-
really good
it-
time with you.
it's-
He's told me about it.
It's so cool. I like it a lot.
Okay.
I mean, it's like, I saw somebody describe it as if Hot Topic were a city.
Okay.
And after going there a couple times, like it
You like
yeah.
feel that that's true.
But it's also really cool. Like there's such a neat art, music, craft beer scene there. It's really awesome. But
Did you do karaoke when you were there?
No, I didn't. But
Okay.
Zeb, like
I thought he did.
Zeb's one of our young land agents.
Mm-hmm.
Really grew up, on the land, like a great guy. But like Portland, Portland was very eye opening for Zeb, and his comments about stuff was so funny.
There was a time where it was like when Zeb first started, and I was like, do I need to drive you to Orlando so you can officially say you've been in a city? And he was like, I don't want to go there.
But he is really just such a good guy and working hard, and I think he's going to have a bright future here. He's young. He's starting to get some momentum.
That is so
And he was
funny.
when I first started. He kind of started at the same time, and was one of the young guys.
Yeah.
Along with Keith,
Yeah.
he kind of just started, and so it's kind of fun to see those guys progress and start to do well.
That is so funny. That just like blew my mind because I would never expect you to say that. Can I ask you who your least favorite agent? No, I'm just kidding. you can tell me afterwards. And if
talk
it's me,
offline.
don't talk. Yeah, don't tell me. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I feel like you were super involved with the building of this building.
Yes, we could do a podcast in and of itself on the building. Maybe that's a topic at some point.
Yeah. Well, we used to be in downtown Lakeland, on the third floor of what was the BB&T building off of Munn Park, and then
Yeah, so when I first started, that's where we were. We were in about 9,000 square feet
Mm-hmm.
or so, and we just needed our own space. We either needed to renovate that space or we just needed to buy
You
a
didn't like
building.
the green and mauve
Yeah,
like vibe.
it's kind of outdated. It used to be a parking deck. It was converted to an office, so there were these major concrete pillars in the middle of the office. It
I
was
did
really
feel
odd.
safe with those though.
Yeah, it was very sturdy, I think, until the leaks started and all that. But it's a good building. We have a lot of guys who drive trucks too,
Yeah.
and it was hard to
The
park
parking
them
was-
in downtown and hard for visitors to find us. And we didn't have a lot of, you have a little sign. Nobody knows where you are.
Yeah.
Your business is located really. And so this building where we're at now became available, and Dean, Gary, and Todd bought it. We renovated it. It's an old Gene Leedy design. He has a museum in Gainesville, actually. He's a very famous architect, studied under Frank Lloyd Wright, which is a cool Lakeland connection with Florida Southern. And so he designed this building, and his signature were these kind of flat roofs, these concrete T-beams, that sort of thing. And the previous owners had kind of, but well before them over the years, like the kind of the cool architectural features had been covered up.
Yeah.
And we didn't really know what it was until we bought it and got in here and started
Oh, is
digging
that
around.
right?
Yeah, because these, like I'm pointing up to the
Yeah.
ceiling in this room. This is an example of these T-beams, and we didn't know this was here because there was drop ceiling and all that, like you'd see in any other office,
Any other
right?
commercial space,
And
yeah.
so the scale of the building changed in terms of what we were doing as we got in here and learned more about the building. And so we tried to blend a modern office building with some kind of concrete industrial feel, and also to highlight all of our art and maps that we have. So it's like half office building, half art gallery, half museum.
Dean collects
But also with a
maps.
ton of wood.
Yeah.
In this industrial feeling building with deadheads on the wall. And it's really a hard thing to blend together. And I think we somehow did it. I don't quite know how we did it, but it works. And
It does work.
it's a really unique building, and it's been awesome for the company. And it was really a fun project for me. Like I'd just started the company when we kind of got into this. And for me, it was a great way to learn about development, how permits work, how
Yeah.
construction works. I mean, it's one thing to look at the numbers of something. It's another thing to actually see how things play out in real life and some of the decisions that go into it. But it was a lot of work and a long, it took a while to get it done. And we were very intentional about some things in terms
Yeah.
of how we did this and selections. And it really turned out, we spent more than we thought we were going to, but it turned out a lot better than we thought we were going to as well.
No, it's great. I mean, like I said, Dean collects maps. I don't know how many are in this building. Do you?
Probably, I would think in this building there's at least 30 or 40.
Yeah.
30 maybe.
Dean is also an avid hunter. There is a full-on goat in his office.
There's a full-length alligator in the lobby.
There's a full-length alligator in the lobby. I just don't know how many more we can fit in this building.
I know, and somehow he keeps going on more hunting trips, and I'm not sure.
And I know more are coming in.
Where are these going?
David Hungerford's daughter was in here. And she walked up to the turkey and gave it a kiss.
Kids love this office building because they come in here and it's like they're going to the zoo.
It is. Except those animals won't hurt you anymore. Yeah.
Weird little petting zoo for sure.
A creepy museum petting zoo. But it's the alligator, I think, is a talking point.
It definitely gets your attention.
I have sent it out on Snapchat, and like I think the people, my friends who don't live in Polk County are just like, you gotta.
People are used to seeing deer on the wall and turkey on the wall. They're not used to seeing like a 12 or 14-foot alligator staring at them when they walk in.
Or like a wildebeest. I don't even honestly know what half of these things are. Your office is not like that. Your office is super nice, and you have like your record player in there.
Yeah, I got a few personal things in there. I like to listen to music, so I have a record player, which I don't use as often.
I know, you should. You should use it more.
At least during the day, because it's hard to control the volume.
I know.
Calls and all that. But if I'm up here late, I'll turn it on. Have a couple of golf pictures on the wall.
Okay, you are a golfer.
I am. Yeah, that's what. Not very good, but that's what I do in my free time is typically play golf and hang out with family and all that stuff.
I mean, I think that's all good stuff. Well, obviously you're our favorite person here. Keep signing our checks, please. And was there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I don't think so. I think this is a fun initiative we're doing with the podcast. I think there's a fun, a great opportunity for us to kind of tell our story.
Yeah.
And each person has their own story that kind of combines into one big story of who we are and what we do and where we're going. And so the ability to do it in this new office building of ours, I think is really fun.
I know.
So thank you all so much for putting this together.
Also.
Chad, do you have something?
Yeah. Tyler, you're talking about a lot about family and laying down roots and all kinds of stuff around that. Are you trying to tell us something? Maybe?
Yes, my wife is expecting our first child.
The way that you kind of like it was like, oh, yay.
Thank you. So she's due August 21st. So we got a ways to go, but it's awesome. Yeah, it's really special.
Congrats to you guys.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's it's a big change. I mean, there's a lot of emotions that go into that, exciting feelings, and but also a sense of this is where we are. This is where we're living. This is where we're going to be.
Yeah.
We're kind of, really, like you said, planting some roots here in Lakeland.
Yeah.
And this community's been great, and this company's been great.
Well, your baby's going to be able to come to the office and pet these stuffed animals.
That's right.
Here.
That's right. Yep.
No, congratulations. That's amazing. And we were talking earlier, and it's like your wife is not expecting. You're expecting. You both are expecting.
She's doing all the work.
Yeah, really. My goodness. Meanwhile, you get to like have.
She listens to this.
Meanwhile, you just get to like sit on podcast and hang out.
That's right.
No, you're a hard worker. We all know that. So, all right. Well, Michael, do you have a laugh or anything to add? Okay, he does not.
Mike's mic is off, which is actually my mic that I have to turn way up for him.
Mike is mute. Okay, well, TD, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. I think everybody's going to like your episode the most, which is why please subscribe, share, rate, and review, svnsaunders.com/podcast, Apple, Google, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. I don't know why that was so hard for me to say. I hope you'll come back, TD.
Thanks, you too. Cheers.
Cheers.